Peace and y'all bless. Y'all's a strong one. Strong one is Yah. He's the tree of life. He's the fountain of living waters. He's the spirit and creator of all things that live and breathe. This particular discourse is the mini maps of Israel. Okay? The mini maps of Israel. Okay. Now, as we know, when you go to the book of Genesis, there's no such thing as a state of Israel or a land of Israel. Okay? Israel is actually the inhabitants of what they call today the state of Israel. I'm talking about back from biblical times, okay? The 12 tribes of, 12 tribes, but they were in the land called Canaan, right? All right? This land was always called Canaan in the book of Genesis, okay? Now, later on down the line, it was called Palestine, okay? All right? Now, once we were evacuated out, and eventually the Esau, was running the land, through basically 70 AD. Okay, and then basically they kind of disappeared off the scene, and you just had remnants of people, through there. Sketchy history, hard to know what was going on because the Bible doesn't give you all the details that you need in the Old Testament to totally put all the picture all the way together. You can only go to the book of Daniel and see, get little small pieces of the puzzle to see what was going on, dealing with the four kingdoms, going down to Greece. Okay, we do read about that. Okay, before you go into the kingdom of the Romans and all that Roman Empire, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when you go into the Maccabees, and that's when the Esau was definitely running the land. You know what I mean? And that's when you run into King Herod, and they're getting into it all the time. The Maccabees, going back and forth of who was supposed to be a high priest and all that during that time, even though none of them are from the house of Levi, so none of them really was qualified to ever be a high priest. But anyway, they were still trying to live out the vision at that time, so they were doing those particular things when you read that in the book of the Apocrypha, okay, called the Maccabees 1 and number 2, right? Okay, and that was the rebuilt temple, because the second temple at that particular time was evacuated, right? Basically Esau was still in the land at that particular time. They took over, and King Herod, during the times of the Roman Empire, right? As you get, down towards the feet, right? We can look at that image, in the book of Daniel. And when they come on the scene, and basically King Herod was just expanding the temple. Okay? So that's why the temple that's soon to be built is called the third temple. Okay? If you understand biblical history. All right? But let's not talk about that. I don't want to make the video complicated or overcomplicated for somebody who may be brand new to watching these videos. Now, this right here, Canaan. That's what this land was called right here. Canaan. Canaan, all right? And if you go to some of those older black grandmothers, very, very like in their hundreds, they knew what this land, they would call it Canaan's land. They knew what it was called. Canaan's land, because that's what it was called, okay? Before it became Palestine. Okay? Before it became Palestine. All right? Now, you see right here, these two particular tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, very important because today, these particular tribes, which you see there in the north, okay? So before we split up, okay, after King Solomon's death, we split up, right? For all those who know biblical history. Then you had Ephraim and Manasseh, okay? These two tribes right here, all right? And also part of Manasseh is on the east side of this Jordan right here, okay? Where modern day Syria is today, and Jordan, what they call the country called Jordan is on this side, all right? Now, presently, right? Okay, after the Sykes-Picot Agreement, right? Okay, so let's carry on. Just a little bit of map. The 12 tribes of Israel, okay? Again, you have Judah in the south, okay? Simeon, all right? And Benjamin, they were always with us in the south, right? In the north, you had Manasseh and Ephraim, okay? Then over here you have East Manasseh, because Manasseh was on both sides, okay? Whenever we were first coming to the land with Joshua, they inhabited this east side, okay, of the land, or east side of the Jordan River first. Then we came onto the land, and as the land was distributed by Joshua, we came in and started inhabiting all these parts, okay? After, we conquered Ai, and after we conquered, Jericho, and all those things. For those who know biblical history, once again, you got to do a lot of study to understand these things, okay? All right? So the maps of Israel. So here's how it always looked, okay? At this particular time, it's called, by this time, probably called Canaan, okay? All right. So let's keep on going. Now, modern day times, by the time you get to 1947, okay? This is the 1947 UN partition of Palestine. Now you see how much land the Palestinians had, okay? All right, and even there's an earlier map where when they tried to create this so-called Jewish state, it was only up here in the north. That's all they had, was really basically up here in the north. But throughout time, you see they came in and almost taken over all of this. So the brand new map that they put out from the Trump administration, you see it's nothing new, okay? What they would call the Arab lands, or Arab state, whatever you want to call it, back here in 1947, they always had all this right here, all this land. They always had all that. They're not doing anything new on that new map that looks like Swiss cheese, okay? They're not doing anything new. They are basically the Palestinians, if you want to call them that. And during 1947, they always inhabited these same borders. So, the West Bank and really, as you can see, they kind of dominated the land there during 1947 as far as who had the most land. Because right here in the Tan area, that's where they would call the Jewish state then, right? What they established at that particular time, right? After the Balfour Declaration, right? And then right here, naturally, you have what they would call the Arab state, That's what they had during 1947. Very interesting, right, to see these maps, right? Naturally, Jerusalem, they named it as basically it's just they said the capital was an international city, ran by outside parties, and we know who that is. That's top of the triangle, okay? So they didn't want either party to necessarily have that, okay? So let's continue on, all right? Now, this is more of a modern day map, as you can see. Okay, I'll come back to it just a little while. All right. Now, very important to understand and get to know. Once we had that schism with King Solomon, we had split up, from our brothers for a while, okay? And you had what was called the Kingdom of Judah, and then you had the Kingdom of Israel, okay? Because the northern tribes, or what we call Samaria. See the Samaria right there? The capital, Samaria, right? Okay. That was the capital of the northern tribes. Then you had the Kingdom of Judah, okay? Now you see down here at the bottom, you have the Kingdom of Edom, okay? As we've told you all many, many times, that's the original land of the people who call themselves today the Zionist movement, or the Jews, okay? That was their original habitation, the Kingdom of Edom, down here south, right? Okay? Never was up here, okay? Never was in Jerusalem or anything like that. We're always down here south, okay, of the Dead Sea. All right? All right. So when we split up, there are two kingdoms, the Kingdom of Israel and the Kingdom of Judah, right? Very interesting history to see, okay? Now here's what the Trump administration, Jared Kushner, what they came up with. Like I told you, baby, look how much land the Palestinians have lost. I mean, wow. I mean, that is a big difference. They act like they're doing them a favor by giving them a couple extra pieces right here that really, from the 1947 map, you see they actually had all this down here in this southern area, okay? I'm talking about just based on what they did back then, okay? And they had dominated all of the West Bank, but you can see, Zionists are coming and taking all that. Look how much the Zionists have taken from the Palestinians. I mean, they've taken a lot of land from them, without a doubt. Okay, without a doubt. Very interesting, right? That's why you always got to go look and do your history, man. Okay? Now, these are the borders that you find in Ezekiel on how the land is supposed to be partitioned and will be partitioned in the future. Okay? Whenever this house of David and the rest of the inhabitants of Jerusalem arrives in the land. Okay? As Yah has promised, it will happen. Okay? Now, this is just showing, after King Solomon's death, how it split up into two different kingdoms, okay? Under two different leaders, right? Okay? All right? But we know by the book of Ezekiel 37 that we're going to come back and be one nation again in the future, right? Okay? All right. As you can see, this is the future state right here. Here's how it's going to, this is the final partition of the land and how it's finally going to look, okay? It's going to be partitioned from east to west, equally amongst all the tribes. Naturally, for the new city and the third temple, the holy portion will be the first thing that's partitioned. And then the rest of the land will be partitioned equally amongst the tribes, okay? With the exception of Ephraim and Manasseh, they will get 2 portions of land, okay? But the only difference, as you can see, they won't be on the east side of the Jordan, you know what I mean? Okay, or not too far. I mean, as far as Manasseh, because you have Manasseh on this side, the west side and the east side of Jordan. You won't have that anymore, okay? All right. But all the borders and everything are already drawn out in Ezekiel. Okay, so we'll know exactly where to go and how far to go with it and how to partition the land whenever we get there. As you can see, this is a much cleaner and better effect than what naturally Jared Kushner and all those guys are trying to introduce, because all they did was went back and look at the 1947 map, basically copied off of that and gave just little bitty pieces of what they saw on the 1947 map. Naturally, they don't read the book, so they weren't gonna come out and do it correctly like they're supposed to, because they're not supposed to do it. We're supposed to do it. Okay. Me being heavily involved in the whole thing. Okay, and many others with me. Okay. To partition this land correctly according to the way God, Yah, the Holy One of Israel, wants it partitioned, okay? What they're doing with Jared Kushner, that stuff's all off, man. Okay, here's another peek at it, okay, how it's supposed to look. It tells you right here. The division of the land of Israel to the 12 tribes of Israel, that's talking about Ezekiel chapter 48, okay? All right? But that's how it's supposed to look. This map that these guys drawing up is not supposed to look anything like that, okay? All right? So go to Ezekiel chapter 47, 48 and just, read for yourself. And these are the borders right here. It gives our northern border. It gives the eastern border, the southern border, and then on around, okay, to the Mediterranean Sea. And of course, the sea is our western border, okay? Now, it doesn't go all the way down here because, see, we're never supposed to take the land of Edom. That is a statute. We're never supposed to take the land of Edom or even try to inhabit it. That's in the book of Deuteronomy. I'll probably visit that before I go. Okay? So going all the way down here to Eilat, you know what I mean? That'll end up going back to, I don't know, somebody, maybe Saudi Arabia. Okay? Once we come in and draw our borders correctly to the book of Ezekiel. It'll cut right across the wilderness of Zin, go all the way over to the river of Egypt. Okay? All right? All right, but very, very important maps, man, for you guys to see. Now, this is what the Trump administration, has put forward with, basically it's the 1947 map, giving the Palestinians a little bit back that they originally already had here in the southern corridor right here. Okay? And then they're going to go in naturally and take away and annex some of these parts. Okay? Coming up, in July, pretty quick. So as you guys can see, there's a big difference in between that and what we're really supposed to be doing. See how much cleaner that map is and how much more fair it is? Okay, when you get the true people there to do it right, the way it's supposed to be done, and only at that point will there be any peace in the Middle East. Okay, only at that point. Okay. Other than that, there never will be any peace in the Middle East until it's done right, the way God intends it for it to be done. Okay? Let's read the bottom. Ezekiel's vision of boundaries for the land of Israel during the millennium. Okay? That's the way it's supposed to look. And they're not going to be able to get around that. Okay? And really, I'm not sure what role the United States can even really play in this particular venture when it has nothing to do with them. Okay? There's no need for a broker. You know what I mean? All right, so let's go to Ezekiel chapter 16. See, Ezekiel chapter 16 sets this whole thing out the way it's supposed to be. Okay? Now, when you go Ezekiel chapter 16, verse number 55, it tells you that order that I've told you guys about that we come in, okay? When thy sister Sodom and her daughters return to their former estate, okay, which is Dimona. There it is right there. Okay? And they're there today. Been there 53 years, right? Okay? Then it says, okay, then Samaria and her daughters return to their former estate. Keyword, the former estate. Right here in the West Bank. Okay? Because Samaria was always the capital of the northern tribes. Okay? Jerusalem was always the capital of the southern tribes, right? Okay? The West Bank. All right? Now, which today they call Ramallah. You know what I mean? Okay? Ramallah. See the Ramallah right there? Okay? All right. And then finally, Jerusalem, we return to our former estate. Right here. So we're all just in 3 different movements come back all in a row. Okay? But very, very important to see that. Okay? They just call it the West Bank today. It never was called the West Bank. Okay? Very important to understand. Know that. It was just called Samaria. Okay? That's why you got to have a whole bunch of different maps. And look, see right here, it says Samaria right there. Samaria. You can see that. See that? Samaria. Kingdom of Israel. That was their capital. And then of the northern tribes, whenever we had the schism to split up, right? And then the capital of the southern tribes was Jerusalem. Okay? All right? But we know by Ezekiel 37 that we're going to come back and we're going to be one nation. Okay? Now, the kingdom of the Zionists is actually down here at the bottom, where it says the kingdom of Edom. That's where they're supposed to be at. Okay? They never was supposed to come all the way up here and take all this land, as we already know. But we see by the book of, I believe, Malachi, the first chapter, that they said they would do that. Okay? Because they said, oh, man, we're going to take both lands. The Edom and we're going to take Jerusalem. Because what? They said, because Yah was there. All right? And now they have it. And now they're like, they hold the height of the hill, right? Okay? With their weaponry, their sword. Okay? So that's some biblical history for you to go look at. You got to go get these maps out in order to understand the book. Okay? All right? So I just want to show you guys that. Very important to understand who Samaria. If you don't understand who Samaria is, you're never going to understand Ezekiel 16. Okay? That's what it tells you right here in verse number 46 of Ezekiel 16 when you read this. Okay? And thine elder sister is Samaria. Right here. See? Our elder sister is Samaria. Okay? Simple as that. That dwells at thy left hand, right? And thy younger sister at thy right hand is Sodom and her daughters, talking about in Dimona. Okay? You got to shift maps so you can see it. Right, boom, right there. So at the left hand is Samaria, at the right hand is Dimona. And then Most High does what? He puts us right in the middle of them. Okay? That we may be what? A comfort unto them. Okay? Well, we got to bear our shame first, like I said, to the end of the captivity. Well, if we buried our shame now. Okay? Now Yah has to return us and set us in the midst of them, as he said he would do right here, as you can see right here. Okay? When I shall bring the fortunes, because captivity means fortunes right there, the fortunes of Sodom and her daughters in Dimona, right? Okay, I'm giving you guys a visual, okay? In Dimona, but he brings their fortunes back, right? Okay, and her daughters. And the captivity of Samaria and her daughters, right? Talking about the West Bank. They call it West Bank today, or the PLO. You want to call them that, right? Okay, Samaria right here. There's Samaria right there, okay? When he brings them back, then the Most High says he's going to do what? I will bring again the fortunes of thy captivity in the midst of them, right in the middle. He drops us, boom, right in the middle, where we originally were. Okay, the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the government arm, Yah, our righteousness, okay? He's going to bring us back and set us right there, okay? So we're all 3 in a row, okay? All 3 movements. We're all sitting at an angle in one line, okay? From the West Bank all the way down to Dimona. The three movements are brought back like that. Okay? Very important that you understand these maps, okay? Because the maps that the Jared Kushner and all them are putting forth, man, they're just taking land from the Palestinians that, you know, they're not taking it from them because the Palestinians have a habitation. It's just in the north. It's not in the south. It's not in Gaza City, okay? Gaza City and all that belongs to the tribe of Yehuda, okay? That's why you got to go look at these old maps and see, you know what I mean? Now, when the Philistines got, when Mosai eventually got eradicated them, then all of this was the kingdom of Judah, okay? All right, and then in the north, you had the kingdom of Israel, okay? Because here's what Gaza presently is right now. You see right there. And even back then, it was right there. And Mahmoud Abbas, no, you're not Philistines. Okay, Philistines are more than likely some kind of Hamitic tribe, okay? All right? Because before any of us came into the land, the peoples, the Canaanites, they were inhabiting that particular land. But they were doing so much wickedness that Yah threw them out, cast them out, right? Eventually cast them out. Because some of those tribes were Hamitic tribes. They were still, as we come into the land with Joshua, I mean, we got into it with a lot of those Hamitic tribes, right? To come in and subdue the land. But anyway, that's a whole, that's just more biblical history that you got to go read. Now, let's read about the kingdom of Edom right here, okay? Where the Zionists actually do have a land. It's just not all of this right here, okay? They have land in the southern part underneath the Dead Sea, okay? So you got to go, and there's many places in the book, but go to Deuteronomy chapter 2, start at verse number 4, right? And command thou the people, saying, you are to pass through the coast of your brethren, the children of Esau, right? Which dwell in Seir, right? And they shall be afraid of you, right? Take good heed unto yourselves, therefore, right? He says, meddle not with them, for I will not give you of their land, right? No, not so much as a foot breadth, because I have given Mount Seir unto Esau for a possession. Okay, right down here in Edom. All right, Mount Seir is like the capital of Edom. Just go look it up, man. Easy research. But now you guys know that, okay? Esau always had his own land, okay? Down here. As you can see, the Most High said, hey, he wasn't going to give us not even a foot's breadth of Esau's land, okay? They're at the bottom down there because they had their own land. They had their own habitation, okay? Notice it don't say nothing here about Jerusalem, okay? Doesn't say anything about that, okay? And now this is, we're getting ready to come into the land with Joshua, okay? So we had to pass, through here, going all the way up, to the Jordan River and then cross over, okay? All right, before we went to, that, and that's where you come into the Battle of Jericho and the Battle of Ai and all that, okay? All right, just a little bit of biblical history, all right? But it's very important to go look up maps and read maps, you know what I mean? Especially like Mahmoud Abbas and some of these people who are wondering about, what should be happening with these maps or about the habitation, how it's supposed to look, okay? Like I said, this is from 1947. Even when after the Balfour Declaration and the Sykes-Picot Agreement, okay? Still, it ended up, at this particular time, I would say the so-called Palestinians, right? They had more of the land than the Jewish state, but you see how it is today. You see, they already had all this right here, okay? They already had all that. And they didn't have Jerusalem. Jerusalem's an international city, right? Okay? Now, here's what they have presently today. Now, all of this, including Elah. See, Edom has the two lands. They have their land of Edom right down here, and they have Jerusalem. So exactly what's put out in Micah chapter 1 is exactly what you see happened, historically happened, okay? All the Palestinians have is parts of the West Bank. And all they want to, and they want to give them a little bit of what they originally had from 1947, okay? Now, the problem with it is none of this is actually their original habitation. As you can see, Samaria is their habitation, right? Okay? All right. And in the future, see right here, how they had it sectioned off, okay? In the future, here's how it'll look. A much cleaner map and done the way according to the way God, the Holy One of Israel, wants it done. Yah, Psalm 68:4. Okay? Because Manasseh and Ephraim represent the north. Okay? And then Judah, naturally, Benjamin, Levi represents the south. Okay? But there's other peoples and other tribes that will gather back to the land, so we'll have to partition it for all of them. Okay? Once we find out who's who. Okay? And also, there'll be strangers, naturally coming to the land too. Those who, once again, qualify, that are not disqualified by Deuteronomy chapter 23. Okay? The Edomite males, adult males, and all that. Okay? We've already talked about it. We're not going to talk about it again. All right? So just a little bit of maps and for you guys to see and think about, okay? And look at, okay? Because that map, the way they have it, it's never, ever going to work out, no matter what happens. But peace will occur. Peace will prevail. Peace is going to prevail. Anytime you do the will of God, there's nothing but peace. And peace will prevail, okay? Because, the Palestinians, they get 2 shares of land, as you see from the book of Genesis, okay? All right, when they're getting the blessing from Jacob, okay? So that's why they get 2 shares of land, okay? All right? Everybody else just gets 1 share, okay? But peace will prevail one day whenever we go out and we actually perform this before all of mankind and partition the land the way it's supposed to be partitioned, okay? Then we'll have peace, okay? When the Most High runs out these evil Zionists, okay? And I'm not saying every single person there is evil, but most of them are, okay? Okay? Runs them out and deals with them and brings us back to the land as he promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that he would do. Then we'll have peace. And peace forever, okay? When we do this according to the will of the Most High, okay? So thank you all for listening. Peace and y'all bless. Once again, go look these maps up. All you got to do is Google it. Your phone's right there by you all the time. It's right on your hip. Okay? Any information you need, you can find at any time. Okay? All right? But this is the way the land's supposed to be partitioned, and the only thing that shall bring peace on this earth for us and our children after us. Okay? Have a good day. Peace and y'all bless.